Have you ever felt like a sponge, absorbing all the emotions around you until you're completely saturated? This is a common experience for empaths who are often seen as emotional sponges, soaking up the feelings of those around them. This emotional absorption can lead to a state of overwhelm, where the intensity of emotions becomes too much to bear. Imagine it like a cup filled to the brim, one more drop and it overflows. That's the breaking point for an empath. The weight of these emotions can lead to a state of exhaustion that extends beyond physical tiredness. It seeps into the psyche, manifesting as heightened anxiety or even a deep sense of despair. It's like being in a room with the volume turned all the way up, and every note, every beat, every sound is amplified to an unbearable level. This is the reality of emotional overwhelm for empaths. When everything becomes too much, empaths often retreat, leading us to our next stage. Ever felt the need to escape, to find a quiet place away from the noise of the world? Withdrawal is a stage many empaths find themselves in when they are overwhelmed by the barrage of emotions they absorb from others. It's like stepping off a chaotic, noisy street into a peaceful sanctuary. This retreat from social situations is not about shunning companionship, but rather about self-preservation. Imagine a sponge soaked to its capacity. It cannot take in any more water without losing its form. Similarly, an empath can only absorb so much emotional turbulence before they need to wring out their emotional sponge to regain balance. Solitude becomes a haven, a place to process, to heal, to recharge. The silent companionship of a book, the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind, the rhythmic lapping of waves on a shore, these are the things that help an empath restore their emotional equilibrium. But withdrawal isn't just an emotional response, it can also manifest physically. Did you know that emotional stress can show up in your body as physical symptoms? Just as an empath absorbs the emotions of others, the intensity of these emotions can often take a physical toll on their body. This is a fascinating yet challenging aspect of being an empath. When an empath reaches a breaking point, their body sends distress signals. These signals can manifest as headaches, a byproduct of the mental strain they've been carrying. Fatigue sets in as their energy reserves are exhausted from constantly processing emotions. Muscle tension, particularly in the neck and shoulders, can be a physical representation of the emotional weight they bear. And let's not forget the gut, our second brain. Digestive issues may arise from the stress, further signifying the need for rest and recuperation. So, when the body speaks, it's time to listen and set boundaries. The body's wisdom is an empath's guiding light towards self-care and balance. How comfortable are you at saying no? It's a simple question, but oh so vital, particularly when you're an empath on the edge. This is the stage where boundary setting comes into play, where empaths need to assert their needs and prioritize their well-being. This can be a significant shift for those who are accustomed to putting others before themselves. Imagine a life where you constantly soak up others' emotions, a life where your own feelings often take a back seat. It's draining, isn't it? Now imagine taking a step back, creating a buffer between you and those emotional surges. It's like a breath of fresh air, a path to reclaiming your mental peace. But setting boundaries isn't just about saying no. It's about understanding your limits, recognizing what drains you, and taking conscious steps to protect your emotional energy. It's about giving yourself permission to put yourself first. And sometimes, setting boundaries isn't enough, leading to emotional outbursts or tears. Ever felt so overwhelmed that you just had to let it all out? It's like a dam bursting after the water has risen too high. This is the reality for empaths when emotions reach a boiling point. Imagine a container being filled drop by drop. Each drop is an emotion absorbed from someone else, and each one adds a little more weight. At first it's manageable, but over time the weight becomes too much to bear. The container starts to crack under the pressure. These cracks are the outbursts of frustration, anger, or tears. They are not signs of weakness, but rather a natural reaction to the accumulation of emotions. A release valve of sorts. These emotional outbursts can be intense and even startling, but they are necessary. They provide a crucial release for the empath, a way to vent the pent-up feelings that have become too burdensome. To protect themselves further, empaths might choose to isolate. Isolation, a refuge or a prison. For an empath, this question can be a daily struggle. When the world becomes too much, when the emotions of others become overwhelming, an empath may retreat into solitude. This isolation isn't about being antisocial, it's about self-preservation. It's a protective mechanism. a way to create a buffer against the barrage of emotions they constantly absorb. They may distance themselves from friends, family, or even take a hiatus from social media. It's like pressing the pause button on a movie that's moving too fast, too loudly. They're not running away from connections, but rather seeking a safe space where they can breathe, regroup, and regain their emotional balance. But isolation isn't always a haven. It can also be a lonely place, where the empath's own emotions echo louder without the noise of the outside world. And in this silence, their sensitivity may become heightened. In isolation, an empath's sensitivity may become heightened. Ever felt like your senses are on overdrive? When an empath reaches their breaking point, this sensation may become their reality. Their sensitivity, already naturally heightened, may intensify further. This stage is referred to as increased sensitivity. The world around them, which was once vibrant and full of life, may now feel overwhelming and intrusive. Imagine being in a room where every light seems blinding, every noise is akin to a shout, and the mere touch of fabric against skin can cause discomfort. This is the reality for many empaths at their breaking point. Environmental factors, which are typically manageable, become amplified. This heightened sensitivity is not limited to physical stimuli. Empaths may also become more sensitive to emotional and social cues, picking up on subtle shifts in mood and energy that others may miss. This can further exacerbate their emotional overload. Recognizing their limits, empaths may reach out for support. When the burden becomes too heavy, where do you turn for support? There comes a stage in an empath's journey where the weight of the world, the emotional turmoil, the physical symptoms, the isolation, all become too much to bear alone. This is the point where they recognize their limits and understand that it's okay to seek support. They may confide in a trusted friend, someone who understands their unique challenges and offers a listening ear. Or they may engage the professional help of a therapist, someone trained to help navigate the sea of emotions they're swimming in. Some empaths may also seek out support groups, be they online or in person, where they can connect with others who are experiencing the same struggles. In these safe spaces, they can express their feelings, process their experiences, and realize they're not alone in their journey. The breaking point can also prompt a reevaluation of relationships. Who truly supports you in your life, and who drains you? This is a question that empaths often find themselves grappling with when they reach their breaking point. The emotional tsunami that comes with being an empath can sometimes blur the lines in relationships. It can be hard to distinguish between the people who genuinely uplift you and those who simply tap into your empathic abilities, draining your energy. Reaching a breaking point, however, can serve as a wake-up call. It prompts a reevaluation of relationships, a reassessment of the dynamics. Empaths may find it necessary to set healthier boundaries, to protect their emotional well-being. This could mean distancing from individuals whose energy feels toxic or overwhelming. It could also mean redefining certain connections, ensuring they offer mutual support and understanding. This reevaluation is not about isolation, but about preservation. It's about ensuring that as an empath, you're not constantly pouring from an empty cup. Finally, when pushed to the edge, empaths may prioritize self-care. What does self-care mean to you? Is it a quiet walk through a forest, the rhythmic focus of yoga, or the simple joy of painting? For empaths, when pushed to their limits, self-care becomes more than a buzzword. It becomes a lifeline. It's a conscious shift in focus, an intentional act of survival that allows them to recharge and rebuild their emotional resilience. For some, it might mean immersing themselves in nature's tranquility or finding solace in the pages of a good book. Others might find mindfulness practices such as meditation or yoga essential for grounding their emotions. And for some, it could be as simple as indulging in a hobby, losing themselves in the notes of a melody or the stroke of a brush. Each empath's self-care routine is as unique as they are, reflecting their individual needs, preferences, and sources of joy. Remember, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's necessary.